Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. All right, welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. Darren Mitchell here on what is a beautiful Thursday afternoon just before Easter. And today, absolute pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Lewis Garotti, the founder, actually I should say with an R, Garotti, founder of 292 Creative. Lewis, welcome to the show, mate. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, mate.
It's and we were talking just before we pressed record, and we were talking about what we're doing over the weekend, and I was saying, well, I'm probably going to upload a podcast and do a bit of work, and you said, well, is it Easter? Because you're
Yeah,
working tomorrow.
I got no concept of what day it is at the moment. We're just it's been a busy week.
It's been well, it is. I don't know about you, but I can't believe how quickly time is flying, and then
Oh,
we're nearly at the end of March, which is incredible.
it's just ridiculous how time has flown this year. I remember working on jobs in January, and now it's bloody April. It's crazy.
Absolutely insane. So, with your background, I'm really enjoying, or going to enjoy this conversation. I'm enjoying it already, but really interested in delving into lots of different areas, particularly around branding,
Yeah.
and things like mental toughness as well. So, I know that as a business owner, and particularly people who are listening to this who may be in corporate, who are going through their own challenges and struggles, particularly salespeople, people who are trying to drive outcomes. Being mentally tough is a really important thing, but also thinking about your own branding and marketing of your business and yourself is incredibly important. So there's lots and lots of topics I'd love to delve into with you today. But for the listeners and also for me, I'd love to get a bit of background on the great man that is Lewis, in terms of what has led you to do what you do today. So I know there's a really interesting story which I have had to read about that, but
Yeah.
love to hear from you in terms of your background and what led you to do 292 now.
Yeah, great. Oh, look, I mean, I can go as far back as when I was 15, 16. At an early age, I used to go to work with my dad, and my dad used to work in the family-run printing business. So we used to have a family business doing offset printing. Started off with screen printing, then went into offset printing. They used to do um, like the ticket items, posters, and stuff for like Spotlight, Dunkin's, all those
Okay.
sort of big retail stores.
Yeah.
And I used to go to work with my dad at a real young age and just hang out with the graphic designers there. And um, when I was around the sort of 15, 16 mark, I started to get into graphics a little bit, just mucking around and just playing around with like websites and just real basic stuff. And got a lot of inspiration from the graphic designers there. I'd always speak to them and they'd get me to do just stuff to practice. At the time, we were using what's called CorelDRAW, which is like the printer's design software.
Okay.
Um, and it was got me sort of interested in the industry. And then at the time as well, I was at school really into art, really like on the creative side, and then also into computers as well. I used to like
Hmm.
muck around and build PCs and stuff. And when it came time to choose a career in high school, it was year 10 at the time. I was like, shit, what do I do? Originally, I was thinking, oh, maybe game design, but I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. So I sort of mixed art and computers together, get graphic design. So I chose to do that. I knew what I wanted to do at a very early age. So when it came time to year 11, I actually dropped out of school
Okay.
and went and did VCAL design course at RMIT, which is pretty much like year 12 equivalent, but based around graphic design. So they had extra subjects around illustration designing and stuff.
Yeah.
And then from there, that led me pretty much straight into the diploma of graphic design. I did that for 2 years and then straight into while I was doing that diploma, My dad actually stepped away from the family business to give me a bit of a head start, and we actually started a printing business. And I
Both
was
you
doing,
and he.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, me and my dad. And quite hard working with family. It didn't, yeah, it was, we used to, me and him clash quite a bit,
Are you the
and we
same
used to argue
personality
at
type?
work. He's got like the old school mentality of doing things. I had like new ideas and stuff,
Right,
and
okay.
we'd be clashing at work, going home because I was still obviously still living at home, going
Yeah,
home, fight at home about work, and it was yeah, it was it was a crazy time. But while we had that business for a few years. While we had that business, I actually met a sign writer as well,
hmm,
who actually came on board with us. And then my dad actually went back to the family business, so I continued on with the sign writer.
right.
And we ran that business for about 2.5 years. And then that business didn't really work out. I was just young and dumb at the time, and I guess went too big too quickly. Like I got machinery, I got leased out a factory, and I couldn't keep up with the costs. So
Yeah,
we sort of just shut it down. And then I went to go work at an offset printing company, which is actually around the corner from the family business. But I saw what happened with my dad, and I just didn't want to get involved with the family business.
sure.
So I wanted to keep it separate, and I went to work at another offset printing company around the corner, and I was there for about 2 years. I started off just contracting then and went on the books. And while I was there, the owner of that company actually was pretty much training me to take over the company. So she was training me literally in all the areas.
Yeah,
Um, so how to quote properly, sales. I was going on the road, door to door, and that's where I really got. I was forced to create communication skills because I would have no choice but to go knock on the door and introduce myself and here, here's my card. This is what we do, type thing. And I'm actually really glad I went through that because now I have those sales skills
yeah,
where, if I'm speaking to a customer, I'm confident in the product that I'm talking about, and I created those sales skills. So I learned that type of thing there, and then also how to quote properly, invoicing and stuff, and then in the offset printing company on the off days, I'd be designing, I'd be running the digital press, and then we also started a wide format sort of section of it as well that I was sort of doing as well. And when we started that, I got really interested in that area of it,
yeah,
more so the automotive side. So like looking at what's possible in vinyl wrapping and I guess those more creative side on the automotive side of things. And I was like, well, I'm actually really interested in this, but how much am I really going to teach myself? Like, how
yeah,
much can I can do some, they had vinyl wrapping courses, which they still do now. I was like, but, I could do a couple of those, which number one cost money, but like, how much am I really going to learn? So I was like loosely looking around for what opportunities there were, and it actually came up to go into a position to run wide format printers at a pretty reputable sign company. Um, so I took it, and within 6 months, I was the production manager, and I was pretty much putting myself on automotive jobs because I was scheduling the jobs. I'd put myself on automotive jobs to learn,
yeah,
and I was there for about 5.5 years, and I pretty much got all the vinyl wrapping and most of the signage skills while I was working there. And actually, when I started there is when I started 292, but it was more of just like a side thing, just for some extra cash.
okay,
I never even meant to like
yeah,
run a proper business. It
yeah,
was more like, oh, I got some money to like buy new appliances for our unit type thing. Um, and it was more because I had the previous business. Those clients were still contacting me for like flyers, business cards, like small format printing.
sure.
And then over the years, it sort of turned into bigger stuff. And then the last sort of couple of years while I was there, I was doing signage installations in like after hours. So within like the last sort of 1 to 2 years, I was like not seeing my family at all because I'd be working during the day, come home at night, prep signs, go and install, and I'd be coming home at like 12 a.m. and then have to be at work the next day at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
and then like all weekend be installing like my own jobs. And then COVID happened and we got put down to 3 days at that particular work. And it
Yeah.
just gave me more time to actually work on my business, get more experience while like subcontracting for other companies as well in terms of install. So I gained a lot of experience in that time where I had a lot more time to work on my own business. And then it just got to a point where it got too much, and I was like, well, if I don't try this and give it a go, I'm going to regret it. I know 100% if I don't at least try,
Yeah.
then I know in a couple of years I'll be like, well, shit, I should have done it. And I didn't. That's one thing I didn't want to have is any regrets.
Yeah.
Um, so I did it, and here we are. What is it? Almost 3 years later. I've pretty much doubled every year and put on 4 staff.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it's getting there.
Well, it's an interesting story. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you as you're explaining that is the lady that was preparing you to take over the business. How did she react when you left?
Yeah, she wasn't too impressed. Uh, but and look, yeah, we didn't really end on too good terms. Like we don't
Oh,
speak now. And that's probably one thing. Look, I don't say I regret because I don't regret leaving because I
yeah.
wouldn't have had the experience that I have. But I guess I should have maybe upkept that relationship and ended it maybe on a little bit better terms. But it is what it is. Like,
But through that
uh,
process, and when you look back on that, the fact you got access to different parts of the business,
yeah,
I firmly believe that everything you do in terms of experiences and some of the challenges you go through are preparing you for something that's yet
that's
to
it.
materialize. So if you look back at it, the skill set that you learned, whether it be the sales, knocking on doors, extending your hand out to somebody, and potentially them saying, "Who are you? Bugger off," has prepared you for what you're doing today. Right?
Many knows and
Well, there's
like,
lots of those. But
yeah.
through that process, you mentioned COVID going down to three days a week, and you're saying, well, I'm working 7 days a week, doing stuff until midnight, going back to work at 7 a.m. Even when you knew you had to make a decision, what was your thought process going from being part of that organization to now having to move into your own organization and pretty much give it a full crack? What sort of thought process were you going through?
Look,
And
that that particular decision by the end of it was very easy.
was it?
Uh, um, there were some issues at that particular company in terms of the work culture. It was very cancerous.
Yeah.
A lot of bickering, a lot of bitching.
Yeah.
Um, the position I was in terms of um production manager or as the manager, I pretty much had the same stress of running my own business, but for someone else.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm not getting paid enough for this shit. Um, and I was a manager, and honestly, looking back as a manager, I think I was underpaid.
Yeah.
Um, like my lead installer at the moment gets more than what I was getting as a manager.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, that's obviously a separate issue.
Mm.
But there was a few issues around that workplace regardless. And when I decided that that's what I wanted to do, which was pretty much a year, well, just over a year before I left,
Yeah.
I decided, no, I want to try my own thing. But at the same time, I was very honest with them as well. At the same time, I was also in the process of buying a house. So I needed to show income.
Yeah.
So I couldn't leave and then buy my house. I needed to
Yeah.
show the income, buy my house, and then leave. And I
Yes.
was very open with them about it. about this is what I want to do. At the time, they needed someone to install because they were down on staff. I said, well, you help me, I'll help you. Let's
Yeah.
keep it honest, keep it
Mm.
open. And that's how that went. And um, it was very interesting because by the end of it, it was a very easy decision where when I put in my resignation or told the director I wanted to leave, I got offered more money. And at that point, it was past money. It was like,
Mm.
mate, you can
Yeah.
offer me double, and I still won't stay. Um, and it was that thought or mentality of having a regret if I don't try it either,
Yeah.
because it's like, well, look, you can offer me at the time I was getting offered 90 grand a year. You can offer me 140 grand a year, but I know that in 10 to 15 years, I could possibly earn much more than that,
Yeah.
like, and do a lot more.
Yeah.
Number one for myself and my family, and also for anyone else that I decide to put on in the company.
Yeah.
And then create my own culture that I actually enjoy being in
Yeah.
and that other people enjoy being in.
Yeah. Well, it's your baby, isn't it? So,
Well, that's
um,
it.
and I guess from the perspective of at least you had a bit of a runway. So you said that you had 12 months. You'd already made the decision. You had 12 months to almost get prepared. So do you think looking back, that gave you a good head start jumping into
100%.
your own gig?
Yeah.
So, and because talk to me then about, because I know that a lot of people listen to this. They might be salespeople, they might be sales leaders, they might be entrepreneurs that are working for an organization as like a contractor or an associate. Then they jump to a competitor, and often companies have non-compete clauses, right?
Yeah.
So you've gone from an organization where you've been an installer, production manager, starting up your own business, and clients know you and they've contacted you. All right.
Mm.
So what was the, I guess, the process you had to go through, all the challenges you had to experience where clients are calling you, and you're thinking, you know what? Well, I'm now representing 292 Creative. They've called me and I've done business with them in my previous gig, right?
Yeah.
How hard was that? And did that create any tension? Because this comes down to personal branding and reputation.
100%. It's interesting you mentioned that. So I had many clients call because I was a point of contact
Yeah.
when they wanted to book in a job or there was more so when there was issues. I was the manager. That's what I dealt with. I dealt with
Lewis's
bullshit.
go-to man for all the
Pretty
issues.
much, yeah. Like there'd be an issue with the car. They'd call me because I was the production manager and I'd get palmed off the bullshit
Yeah.
to deal with, which is part of the job, whatever. But yeah, I was a point of contact for a lot of those clients, and a few of them did contact me. And part of our employment contract is that you can't canvas or contact previous clients within 12 months.
Yeah.
So I had to uphold that, and I pretty much said, well, or even if I say I went to go work somewhere else, I have to tell the manager there or the boss there
Yeah.
that I can't take on the client or I can't go and canvas a client or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I'd have clients calling me and I'll be like, well, go to Graphico because that's your supplier. Um, in saying that as well, I couldn't force clients to return back if they didn't want to.
Yes.
So my first thing was to push back and say, no, like I don't work at Graphico anymore.
Yeah.
Go back. Um, and then if they kept returning, well, I can't help that. But in saying that, I didn't actually do any work within the first 12 months for any of their clients. Um, After the fact, after 12 months, I now do work for what was one of their bigger clients.
Yeah.
Because they approached me.
Yeah.
I haven't approached any of their existing or old clients. Anyone who I do work for now who was a client that I used to
Yeah.
interact with back then has approached me,
Yeah.
which says something. Um, it says something on their part, really.
Well, it also says stuff on your part as well,
Yeah,
because we do need to understand that people like to do business with those who they resonate with, who they like, or
100%.
who are like them,
Yeah.
but who
People
you
like
know and who they trust, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
because the fact that you've been in business for over 3 years and you've doubled each year, and the fact you had an anti-competitive clause, um, talk to me about. I mean, obviously there's been some ups and downs. So this is not when we're in business and like we're in sales. It's not a linear upward trajectory as much as we'd like it to be. There's going to be
100%.
peaks and troughs, right? So um, as a salesperson, as a marketing person, as a business owner, describe that first 12 months in terms of how did you go to market? How did you let people know that you're open for business? And how did you therefore, because you couldn't attack those clients, because hey, it would have been very easy, because I know where I was in a similar position. It would have been very easy to take on those clients and say, you know what,
Mm,
we provide a slightly different service to what the other company does. So I could sort of do that business, but there's an ethical thing there, which obviously you took really seriously. So,
yeah.
what did you do in that first 12 months to establish yourself to get through that period and give yourself a really solid foundation?
So because I was running the business before I went full time, I was running the business for a number of years as a side hustle,
Yeah.
for extra cash, and I actually already established a social media page. I had an Instagram page, Facebook page. I had an existing following. It was when I went out on my own, it was roughly about 1,200 followers.
Hmm.
So it was a half decent following. I was getting some inquiries through social media and stuff. But 90% of my work so far has been just referrals, word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's essentially just doing a good job so that those clients then refer me on to other people.
Yeah.
And so there was just slowly getting that reputation, getting referrals and word of mouth and stuff. And then in the first 12 months, I was actually working out of my garage. And my garage was decent. It was like a two-car garage that was completely empty because the previous owners had blocked it off and made it like an actual room.
Okay.
So, and then tacked onto that was my office. So I had some decent room and I actually have still some of the equipment that I had back then here.
Okay.
Um, and I was there for about a year and I just made do. Like I had challenges where I was doing wraps in my carport. So I was like almost outside putting on vehicle graphics and pretty much almost I did a full wrap under my carport. Um, and you just make do with the situation that you have. And within that time, while I was actually still in my garage, is when I put on my first employee. I
Hmm.
put on an apprentice because I needed the help. I couldn't prep everything and go and install at the same time. I was just getting too inundated.
Yeah.
Um, so I saw growth in the first 12 months, even the first 6 months, because I already had the clients, already had the work there
Yeah.
from, when I was doing it on the side.
Yeah.
So, sorry. So from there, sorry about that. Continuing on, you can edit that bit out.
Mate, we just grip it and rip it. So if there's any cats going across the screen or doors being knocked down, it's all part of the experience.
Yeah, that's all right. They're not going to give up, are they? All right. Sorry about that. Uh, yeah. So because I obviously already had the clientele, from when I was doing it on the side, we sort of just grew on that with referrals and word of mouth, and I was doing some social media. I was getting a little bit from that, but not a lot. Um, and then it sort of just grew from there, and yeah,
Because it's really interesting because a lot of people say, you know what, referrals is the best form of, business because you're
Yeah.
already a known quantity, and any trust that's been established between you and an existing client gets automatically transferred to a prospective client. There's nothing you really have to prove other than, are you a decent bloke? Do we have something in common? Do I think I can work with you? Um, it's interesting though that even with referrals, you still have to do a good job in terms of impressing them with who you are, in terms of I guess, your character and the service that you can provide.
Yeah.
How important has been branding and I'll say keeping up appearances, but being visible to your marketplace so that people know who you are. Um, what's
It's
your thoughts on that?
it's something I have done more so recently in terms of me personally getting in, especially with social media, getting in front of the camera, displaying the product with me in it. Because at the end of the day, people like people, and that's how you're going to gain trust with potential clients is they see me on it, and obviously I'm the face of the business. I am the business,
Yeah,
as well as our the employees that we have. Um, but it's something I've started to more recently. I do. I have always on our website had our story with um, a photo of me and my wife when we started the business. And I feel like that's important because people resonate with that and they want to know who's behind the business. I feel
yeah,
like when companies have like their about section or their bio on their website, and there's just about the company, but there's not about who started the company or who's behind the company or the
yeah,
team, or like
yeah.
people want to deal with people. They don't want to deal with a blank company.
That's it.
Um, and that's, yeah, with social media, it's something I started to do more so in the last sort of year or so. Um, but getting out there in terms of networking and event appearances and stuff, you have to get out there and see people to
Mm.
be able to gain trust and visibility with potential clients.
Yeah,
And then once you get visibility, then you get credibility, and then hopefully profitability.
absolutely, absolutely. But it starts with
And
visibility.
well, that's it. You need to get seen. Like you need to make the effort to be there.
Mm.
And one thing we've actually done last year as well is actually joined BNI, which has been successful pretty much straight away for us because a signage company can service anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone can, requires a banner, or like we do business cards and small format printing and stuff as well. Yeah, that's it. Um, and so like I can literally service any company,
Yeah.
whether it's graphic design or small format printing or signage, vehicle
Yeah.
graphics. So we do quite well from those sort of networking events and groups like BNI.
Yeah.
And since I've joined BNI, like I've done quite well. So as soon when I went to go and join, I pretty much got work straight away. I was like, well, now I have to join.
Well, and the I guess the strategy at BNI, or the expectation at BNI, it's all about bringing referrals
Yeah.
to each other and help each other build your business. So it's a very, very famous worldwide
Mhm.
networking, not a franchise, but networking business. So it's
Yeah.
fantastic. It gets exposure. In terms then of your, I guess, the services you provide, because and I'll just, hey, I'm a uneducated
Yeah.
person when it comes to this, right? But I do know that a lot of people listening to this may be selling products or services that the marketplace might consider to be commodity. That is, there's a lot of them out there. You do a shopping list and you go and find a widget, or you find a product, or you find a service. Um, how do you see the market that you played in? And is it considered by many customers or the industry as a commodity that many people can do it? And if that's the case, how have you been able to differentiate yourself so that you become almost like the choice of or the first choice with your customers? Because I do know you've been associated with some pretty, let's just say, some famous brands, and certainly famous in Melbourne, being Lawback luxury cars and also Mercedes-Benz. So how have you, well, first of all, do you consider it to be, from the perspective of the marketplace, quite a commodity product or service that you guys provide? And if so, how have you been able to, I guess, differentiate yourself so you're the first choice?
So there's a few different things there. Signage, there's plenty of sign writers. Signage is a commodity, and small format printers are now doing signage. Quick Copy does signage. Snap Printing does signage. Literally every digital printer has a wide format printer these days. So signage is definitely a commodity. And it's something that we don't really specialize in. We just do it because the machinery is the same and like the skills are similar. So we really specialize in the vehicle signage, wraps, paint protection film, and
Hmm.
also event signage, corporate events and smaller events.
Yeah.
And so I guess we'll start with events. So events, especially in the smaller events, there's not really professional signed companies in those smaller events. They're all so like I'm talking weddings,
Hmm.
engagements, birthdays, etc. They're all like all the people who do signage in that industry, they're all like stay-at-home mums with like cry cut machines and like little vinyl cutters and stuff. So there's not actually a professional sign company who's well, not many of them anyway. So it's a very niche thing for us to actually be in. And because we're actually sign company, we get it done, number one, better, so an actual quality, and a lot faster because,
Yeah.
and we can do bigger shit, really,
Yeah.
because we have bigger machinery. Um, in terms of the larger events, so going into corporate events and exhibitions, I guess, the way we get our work and the way we differentiate ourselves is by the relationships that we create in those areas. So for example, for a couple of years now, we've done the Australian Toy Association Toy Fair, which
Hmm.
is actually at Jeff Shed, exhibition building or center, sorry. And the the woman who, well, my contact there, I actually knew from when I had my first business,
Right.
and we just kept in touch. And I did bits and pieces for her over the years. And then when she moved there, she's like, I only want to use you.
Yeah.
I literally got everything. I was like the preferred supplier for this
Hmm.
exhibition 2 years straight. And it's just keeping those relationships alive, building those relationships. That's one thing where being a small business, we pride ourselves in having these relationships and um, being able to service those clients, number one, with a great price, obviously not being the cheapest, but not ripping people off.
Yeah.
And turnaround, usually with events, it's like yesterday it needs to be done. So we make sure it gets turned around no matter what. Like it just need it. My thing is it needs to happen and it gets done. And
Yeah.
I'll find a way. And especially with events and all those sort of things where everything is last minute. It's yeah. And then obviously quality needs to be, I'm not going to supply a shit product.
Yeah.
Um, so they're sort of the things that our customers on the event side of things trust us with. One of our clients who's been a client for like since I started the business, uh, probably like for 8 years now. They do all of the merchandise for all the motorsport events. So like Grand Prix, which just
Hmm.
passed, MotoGP, supercars.
Hmm.
And some of their stuff is literally 24-hour turnaround. and it's a lot of stuff. So they don't even now. It's at a point where I don't even need to quote. It just happens
Yeah.
because there's the trust there, and they know I'll get it done. They're happy, their clients happy, whether it's Grand Prix or supercars, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because I make it happen, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then obviously, because they've been a client for so long, I have a really great relationship with um the management there and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, moving on to the vehicle signage, wraps, and paper section film. That is slowly getting saturated with cowboys.
Okay.
So smaller guys who, go and work for somewhere for like 2, 3 years and think, oh, I can do this, without the relevant experience. Um, and then you get like the YouTube rappers where they just learn off YouTube, like, I'll start rapping cars
Yeah.
without the relevant experience.
Yeah.
Now, when you don't have the relevant experience in that industry, uh, number one, you can't supply high quality product. Number two, you're going to have rework because your stuff's going to fail and clients going to come back complaining. So where we and whether it sounds cliche or not, but we pride ourselves on supplying a high quality product. And with that, in that sort of industry, I don't budge on quotes. I
Hmm.
don't budge on price. People ask for a discount, so that's the price, and that's it. Because I know that what you're going to get, you're not going to come back for.
Yeah.
Because we pride ourselves in making shit last.
Yeah.
And because, like, I don't know if you've seen many raps, but if you see a bad rap, it looks like shit. Like you see, I'm sure you've seen on the road where like someone's wrapped a van in the recessed areas where it should be a window, it's popped back, stuff like that. Like that doesn't happen here. We don't.
Yeah.
I don't reckon I've had one of those pop back in like 4 years.
Yeah. Well,
And
I've often wondered the how utes and trucks and vans with all the beautiful, well, it looks like paintwork, and maybe sometimes it is paintwork. I don't know, but
yeah,
is a lot of that wraps, is it?
yeah, yeah. So now like all the Couriers Please cars, the
Yep.
yellow,
Yep.
that's all wrap now. It's all
Okay.
vinyl wrap.
Right.
DHL as well, I'm pretty sure. What else is the blue on Australia Post, Star Trek,
Yep.
that's wrapped. On the trucks, it's painted. On the
Yeah. Okay.
vans, generally they're wrapped.
Right.
You can always tell because when they open the back doors and it's white on the inside, you can
Yeah.
tell it's
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Majority of them now because of the cost of paint
Yeah.
and prep of paint and stuff, they just get them wrapped. It's just a
Yeah.
lot easier and cheaper.
So you said something really fascinating, which I want to pick up on, and that is you don't discount in that area. So it's a really strong lesson for people who believe in their service. And as long as you are, I guess, competitive in the marketplace and you can justify the quality of the service and the product that you deliver, I always say to sales teams all the time, whatever you do, don't immediately jump into, yeah, we're happy to give you a discount, because you've got to maintain what is the value that you are providing to this particular client, and
Mm.
how do you get your client to understand what the value is to them, but also what is the cost of them not doing business with you, right? So I think it's a really, really strong point to make that you believe in so much in your product and what you deliver in terms of quality output to not discount, right? Because if you're discounting it, it means that you're almost conditioning people next time to come back and ask for a discount. Now, if there's a client that comes to you for a vinyl wrap that also wants to do an event, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to ask you for a discount on everything you do, right? And you then start to condition your customer to always be asking and working on price. And as salespeople, as business people, we've got to not so much deflect the attention away from price, but not enter into a price war, because there's only going to be one cheapest provider in any marketplace, and you end up getting what you pay for in many cases.
Yeah, and we have a number of clients now who know our quality and they don't even ask for a quote. Like
Yeah,
in the automotive section. They
Yeah.
just do it
Yeah.
because they know the quality. They know
Yeah.
that we're going to take extra care. I have one client that we've done a number of cars for who only will only let me work on his car, like as in us.
Yeah.
He won't let anyone out. He won't go to anyone else, even for like detailing. I had to refer him to a detailer
Yeah.
because of that trust that we've built with him. And he's had bad experiences previously, and I had to like regain his trust in the actual product because
Yeah.
he had just called it quits on the whole product
Yeah.
when he had that bad experience. And I had to say, try and sort of convince him, well, no, it's not the product, it's the company that you dealt with. They
Did he
just
go? Did he
they gave you
go to
shit.
a? Well, he went to a
um,
cowboy, obviously.
well, no, he actually went to a very reputable company
Mm.
and they stuffed it up.
Wow.
They actually ended up cutting his car. And from there, he was just like, nah, no
No.
way. Um, and it was actually at my previous work,
Yeah.
and I had created a relationship with him because I took the effort to rectify the issue, and I actually traveled to his, excuse me, traveled to his house to rectify the issue many,
Okay.
like multiple times.
Yeah.
And we just created a friendship, just talking shit, whatever, like while I was doing the work. And then after I left there, it was way past 12 months. It was like almost 2 years. I did it. His wife is an event styler, and I did a job for his wife. And I rocked up at the house. I'm like, fuck, this looks familiar. And then he opened the door. I'm like, oh shit. And then I just started talking to him. He's like, oh yeah, yeah. I've got this car. What do you reckon? He's like, I'm pretty hesitant. I'm like, look, man, like you know what I did to help your situation. You can trust me, blah blah blah. I gained his trust, and now I've done like 7 cars for him.
Nice.
So we've gained a very great relationship with him, and he trusts only trusts us to the point where now we're doing an exhibition in April, which is pretty much the largest car show in Melbourne, and we're displaying his car, one of his
Mm.
most expensive car. So that's the type of trust that we've now built with him, where he
Yeah.
trusts us to display his car at the event,
Yeah.
where there's going to be 20,000 people around. So,
Well, it's good advertising, isn't it?
well, that's it. And we needed a car to display. But that's the type of level of trust that you have to build with
Mm.
your long-standing clients or the clients who give you um, high-paying work and work that requires attention to detail. You need to create uh, a level of trust where they don't even blink. They just, yeah,
Yeah.
you got the job. You're doing it. They don't even want to quote. You're doing it.
Well, that's probably for any business owner or any person in any form of business that sells a product or a service, whether that be a physical thing or a non-physical thing, is that's literally utopia. When you have customers coming to you and say,
Yeah,
"Hey, we're not going to go through a competitive pricing or quotation or tender process. We love what you've done. We trust you implicitly. We know you're going to do a good job. We know you're going to provide value. Just get it done." Right now,
yeah,
from a business perspective, that is probably the best situation to ever
yeah,
be in. But the flip side of that, there's also added pressure to the point where you want to make sure you continue to maintain that quality and not stuff it up and not take it for granted, right?
yeah,
Because how easy
100%.
could it be to say, you know what, I'm just getting cream from this person, and any from even from referrals, I think it's really easy to keep building the business through referrals, but I would think that there's extra pressure that's added to that in terms of wanting to maintain your standard,
Yeah,
so you're doing a great job.
especially when the cars that are brought in have a different level of complexities, and like you've
Mm,
done an awesome job in one car, and then so like recently, like all the other cars we've done for him have been like almost perfect in terms of like the finish, the quality. And then he brings in this massive Silverado that's really, really hard to do. And I'm struggling. And I'm like, shit, this is hard. I didn't realize how hard this was. But we got it done. We make sure that the quality is still there. Like the job doesn't leave until I'm happy with the
yeah.
quality that goes out.
Yeah.
Uh, like for example, I've got a Lamborghini downstairs that we're doing some work on, and I had a piece on it before, and there was like a scratch, like a very, very, very faint scratch on the vinyl, probably 100 mil. And it was like at the top, sort of like if you stood back, you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, it's a $500,000 car. I can't, it's not staying. Rip it off, start again. And I'd done half of it.
Yeah.
It's just that it's that type of quality, that quality control that needs to happen with, especially
Yeah.
those types of cars. But any car that comes in here, I treat a Lamborghini the same as I treat a van in terms of
Mm.
quality. The quality needs to be 100%.
Because
And that's
every
where
job,
you,
yeah,
well,
go.
that's where your clients are going to trust you then.
Yeah.
If you're treating a van the same as you treat a $500,000 car, wow, of course, you're going to get referrals.
Well, because it's a representative of you, an extension of you. So everything
Yeah,
that goes out has your fingerprints on it. You want to make sure it is up to your standard.
yeah,
Because if you look at that scratch and say, you know what, near enough is good enough, then what does that put that out there in the marketplace? You know what, you're prepared to just get to a certain level, but it may not be consistently at the excellent level.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And we all strive for excellence.
Well, absolutely. This is the exceptional sales letter podcast. So this is
Yeah,
all about
yeah,
being
that's right.
exceptional. So look, I do want to touch on, we don't have a lot more time left, but I do want to touch on a pretty important topic, and that is mindset and mental toughness. I was actually working with a group yesterday and we're talking about some resilience techniques and processes. You've had some, I guess, tough times. Talk to us about the importance from a business owner, but also from a human perspective on the importance of I don't know, building resilience or being tough mentally. Because even in the course of running a business, I'm sure there's been some ups and downs. I'm
Mm.
sure there's been some clients that we've talked about some good clients today, but I'm sure there's also been some clients that may have
Those good
tested you
clients
as
are also
well.
bad clients.
So, just talk to us a little bit about the importance from your perspective on maintaining I guess a good approach to things and maintaining things like mental health and being tough mentally.
Yeah. So I'll start with the good clients being bad clients. Uh, we have a client um who's very, very, very particular to the point where uh if it's not done to like the millimeter, he cracks the shit.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where it gets a little bit annoying and where you want to crack the shits, but you have to be self-aware in what you're giving the customer. Um, Especially when the customer gives you a shitload of work.
Yeah.
And he's one of those customers who doesn't ask for a quote. They just want it done, but he wants it done ridiculously to the fine point, which is good and bad. It's bad because it's a pain in the ass. It's good because it keeps us in line in terms of quality.
Yeah.
um, like I reckon we've been back and forth there the whole week. We've had someone there just working on the same job, really, just replacing something because it was a mil too short.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just getting it perfect, and that he has a very good eye for detail, and you know he wants it to be perfect. We got to make it perfect. That's
Mm,
that's it. But when dealing with those customers, you need to, number one, be self-aware in your tone and how you deal with that customer when they are being a pain in the ass, and not to retaliate in a way that's going to piss them off.
mm,
Uh, but also, you know, sometimes you have to be a little bit stern and push back a little bit. Otherwise, you just end up getting walked all over.
yeah.
I saw that in my previous work where the management was getting walked all over by a certain customer that would constantly just push and push and push and push to the point where the staff were copying it.
Mm.
I was like, no, it's not going to happen in my work.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen in this company. Uh, so I will take it to a point, but you know, number one is staff, then customers, because the staff will look after your customers, right? Uh, and you need to make sure they're happy and looked after, and they will then convert that to your customers. That aside, in terms of mindset and resilience of running a business, we all have headaches every day. Running a business is stressful. I don't think there's a day where I haven't been stressed, but doing the stuff outside of the business helps me deal with those stressful times and doing shit I don't want to do in the business and just pushing through and just getting it
Mm.
done. And then being able to deal with that stress in front of your staff and how you deal with them as well. Like just recently, I had one of my staff had a 12-month review, and one of their comments was, "I can't believe how you deal with stress." He's like, any other manager would just like crack the shits.
Yeah.
He's like, you take stress really well. Like even if we've fucked up, like
Yeah.
you've handled it very well. I'm like, well, what's there's no point in cracking it. Like there's no point in me yelling at you. What's that going to solve?
Yeah.
I just want the solution. I don't like the problems happen, just fix it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's being self-aware in the workplace as well. And you know, because I do the stuff outside of work helps me deal with that, like, you know, physical activity, um, personal development, reading books about how to deal with stuff like that, making sure that you're actually learning on
Mm.
how to be a great leader, how to deal with customers, um, just running a business in general. Um, and then before I started the business, um, while I was still working at my other work, it was maybe a year and a half, 2 years before I started the business. Um, the my uncle who was running the family business, um, couldn't cope with the stress of running a business, and he had the pressure of staff. He had like 15 staff. He
Yeah.
had the pressure of the like keeping up with the clients, their demands, his family's demands. And at the time, they ended up losing like three massive clients in a row, and he couldn't keep up with the pressure of his family and staff. And he ended up taking his own life. And when I decided I wanted to take my business seriously and I decided that I want to do this full time, I was like,
Yeah.
well, looking at that, I don't want to end up there. Like I don't want to end up in a position where I can't cope mentally.
Yes.
So from the minute I decided, I worked on my mental toughness. I ended up doing a mental toughness course from Founder with Joe DeSena.
Hmm.
Um, and that from when I started that, I pretty much started going to the gym, started doing shit to put myself through to put myself through hard times, like
Yeah.
doing cold showers, walking in the morning in like 5 degrees. And I
Cold
still do all that
showers.
shit now. Um, and it's just putting yourself through those uncomfortable situations so that you can deal with uncomfortable situations in your everyday tasks.
Yes.
So, for instance, like look at this morning. This morning, I woke up at 4 o'clock. I went to the gym. I came home, had a high protein breakfast. Kids woke up. I made them breakfast. I got myself ready. And then I was here at 4 to 8.
Yeah.
So my day started off stressful. What else can happen? Like, it can't get any worse. um, and it's creating those habits as well that move you forward in life and if you're not growing, you're dying at the end of the day.
That's it.
So making sure that you're growing mentally with your knowledge, your resilience, and then growing with your skill level in terms of running a business or the type of skill that your industry requires. And then growing with your relationships as well
Mm.
is massive. So just making sure, even if it's just that sort of 1%, just making sure that you're growing and you're better than yesterday. Just a little bit better than yesterday. You have to be massively better, but as long as you are somewhat better than the day before, that's the goal. And that's what's gonna help you deal with all the bullshit throughout the day.
Yeah. Well, it's a good description, and it's really, really saddened that your uncle felt that potentially that was the only way out. But I guess through that, there may be a lesson that's been passed on to you to now
Mm,
be on this journey, and then think about what legacy you can now pass on to others in relation to that, because um, there's always going to be stress. As I said to the group yesterday, if you're thinking about coming to work and not experiencing any stress, then you're delusional, right?
yeah,
Stress is
yeah,
always going to be there. Things are going to happen that you don't expect. You've got to think about, what do I have control over? And one of the things we always have control over is how we think and what we make a situation actually mean. So
yeah.
the fact that you've actually gone out and started to do that, the personal development journey, the cold showers, which I think is just nuts. Anyway, you keep doing that. Going to the gym and putting one foot in the front of the other, and thinking about, well, how do I improve today and how do I get better than I was yesterday, is a great way, because you'll naturally be in a better position to be able to handle anything that is thrown at you. And the key
Mm,
thing here is, it doesn't matter. It's not about getting the right answer or the perfect solution. It's being comfortable being able to handle whatever's thrown at you and removing yourself from getting a perfect outcome, but making progress. And I guess that's the key message.
yeah, definitely.
So, mate, I can't believe it's over an hour that we've
There you
been
go.
we've been talking. So greatly appreciate you jumping on. For people who are interested in learning more about you, but also 292 Creative. So where they've got corporate events coming up, where they're wanting to expose themselves to wider marketplace and have some professional work done for them.
Yeah.
Or in fact, if they've got a fleet of cars or they want to somehow get exposed in terms of their branding to their marketplace through the automotive component, what's the best way to get in contact with you and learn more about that?
Yeah, you can go on our website, 292creative.com.au. You can go on Instagram at 292creative or Facebook as well. We're also on LinkedIn. You can add me personally as well at Lewis, Luis, Garotti, Garotti on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you have any questions at all, even if it's not about business, even if it's about mindset or mental toughness, or you might be going through a shit time, reach out. I'm happy to help.
Brilliant, brilliant. Love it, mate. I'll put those things in the show notes. Absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. All the best for the
Thank you.
future development and future growth of 292.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I know that tomorrow being Good Friday, people listening to this is being recorded on a Thursday. Tomorrow being Good Friday, the great man Lewis will be hard at work,
Yeah,
creating more magic for his customers.
that's it. Yeah, in the grind.
Love your work, mate. So,
Thanks,
thanks
mate.
again. Greatly appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.